Here's the feature that I have never ever seen before when it comes to jigsaws. So when you get this Milwaukee barrel handle jigsaw, this is what comes in the box. You get obviously the tool, your dust collection port, your dust cover, I guess. And this is also a neat thing that we're gonna test out called the anti-splinter guard. I think it's like a little plastic piece that goes right around the blade. This is an M12 jigsaw. Milwaukee also makes an M18 jigsaw. Just a quick reminder, with the Milwaukee platform, if you have an M12 tool, it can fit these 3 amp M12 batteries. They also have 5 amp M12 batteries. You got the 1.5 amp M12 batteries. So I can throw this battery in here and it's fine. That will power this tool. I can also throw in the 3 amp M12 battery. Obviously the 3 amp is what I'm going to be mostly using with this jigsaw because, you know, this jigsaw is a little bit of a, you know, more powerful tool. So the 3 amp M12 battery is going to give you more battery life. Unless you pick up a package from like Home Depot or maybe Amazon has some, you're probably just going to get the tool and you're probably going to have to buy the battery separately. I'll link some batteries down in the description. I actually just picked up a 2-pack of these 3 amp batteries and really, really nice. Before we fire up this jigsaw, let me just go over some of the basic features. And like I said, this jigsaw has a feature that I have never seen on any jigsaw that I have ever owned. Maybe it's on the nicer jigsaws and I'm just now getting into nicer jigsaws, but I've never seen this feature before. But before I get to that, basic features. You do have variable speed. You have all the way up to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you have something called I think this stands for automatic. And this will basically vary your, like blade movements per minute. Varies between, I think, 1,500 and 3,000. So I think this will kind of either speed up or slow down your blade depending on what you need for that cut. If you're going around a hard turn and a cut or something like that, it's going to adjust your blade speed accordingly. That's actually really nice. I've never seen that on a variable speed jigsaw. I've normally just seen like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, if you're going to have a cut that have some straightaways, but then you have some, some turns, you might want to throw this thing in automatic so it can intelligently adjust the blade speed. That's pretty cool. Obviously right here, you've got your on-off switch. When you do plug in a battery, right here, you have your fuel gauge, which tells you how much battery life. Right here, you have your fuel gauge, which tells you how much battery life you have. When this thing starts to blink, I think when it blinks once, that means you have about 10% of your battery left. And then obviously when it's constantly blinking, it means your battery's dead, go charge the battery. You have right here your oscillating switch. So 0 oscillation, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have all those settings. 0 oscillation means your blade, your jigsaw blade, is moving perfectly straight up and down. Whereas like full 4 oscillation, it's kind of moving laterally a little bit. When you get this jigsaw in your owner's manual, it will give you a guide for how much orbit you want in your jigsaw depending on the type of material you're cutting. Like I think I saw maybe if you're cutting some sheet metal or something like that, you're going to want a higher orbit. It's just going to help you make a cleaner, more efficient cut. A lot of jigsaws now have been using this feature. In fact, I reviewed a Ryobi D-handled jigsaw on the channel a couple months back, and it even had this feature, and it's a much cheaper price point jigsaw than this one. When you go to install a blade in your jigsaw, you have this toolless blade installation function, essentially. You don't have to grab an Allen wrench to install a blade. That's super, super nice, and this feels really, really good. I love the way that they designed this blade installation thing here. Of course, you can adjust this Allen key at the bottom of the jigsaw here. If you want to cut at bevels, they give you marks for 0 degrees, 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, all that kind of stuff. You also get this little, I think they call it like a shoe cover right here. Now, when I reviewed my Ryobi D-handled jigsaw on the channel a few months back, I saw this, I'm like, oh, they packaged that really well. And I took this little shoe cover off, like so, and I threw it away. Don't do that because this is actually part of the tool. Someone in the comments of that video said, hey, actually, what this is used for is if you're cutting something that you don't want to mar, let's say you're cutting a finished cutting board or maybe some plastic or acrylic, you want to have this installed so you're not leaving like tool marks from this boot right here on your workpiece. And I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Also, what's really cool is right here in this boot cover, whatever they call it, you have built-in blade storage. You can put 2 jigsaw blades right here. And so let's say you have a couple of different jigsaw blades you want to keep with your saw. You can maybe have 1 in the saw, 2 stored right here. That's a really, really nice feature. Speaking of on-tool tool storage, right back here, you also have your Allen wrench to adjust the bevel of your tool. I think that's really, really nice. It fits in there really nicely. When I was looking through the owner's manual of this, it said, here's your Allen wrench. I was like, where? You can barely see it, and it just kind of hides back there so nicely, but really easy access. I really, really like that. Before I get to the last feature that's crazy on this jigsaw, and then before we test this jigsaw out, one more thing I'll say is just the overall quality of this tool feels really, really good. It's something that I've just started to call the Milwaukee feel. I think, in my opinion, every Milwaukee power tool that I've ever used, it just has that next level of quality feel. This jigsaw is extremely comfortable in the hands. I'm super excited to try this out because I've never used a barrel handled jigsaw, which is what this is, compared to a D-handled jigsaw like this. All my jigsaws, this is my first battery powered one. I reviewed this on the channel a while back. You know, this is how you're cutting versus this. I have a feeling that this barrel handle is gonna be way more comfortable to cut with than the D-handled jigsaw. And Ryobi actually now has a D-handled jigsaw as well. So if you want me to review that on the channel, just let me know. One more feature that I really, really like about this jigsaw is it gives you an LED light, but where a lot of the Milwaukee tools, like I just reviewed a router, it only powers on that LED light when the tool is turned on. It's not the case with this jigsaw. If you don't want the light on, you can leave it completely off. But you have this button on the front of the tool, and it can have the light on even before you power the tool on. I don't know why every Milwaukee tool does not have that feature, because let's say I'm wanting to see my cut line. I'm in, maybe a spot where I don't have great lighting. You don't want to fire up the tool to see where you're working. That you just want to be able to turn on your light and say, oh, here's my line or whatever. I really, really like that feature. Okay, so here's the feature that I have never, ever seen before when it comes to jigsaws. Maybe this is a normal thing for nicer jigsaws. Like I said, I've personally never seen it. Right here on kind of the back side of the jigsaw, you have this little toggle switch. And on one side of the toggle switch, it's basically saying, hey, we're going to blow the sawdust away from your blade while you're cutting. And then the other side is not blowing sawdust away. So the idea is when you have this like clean out feature engaged, it's going to keep the sawdust away from your cut line, which actually, if you've, used jigsaws a lot, you know that a lot of times that sawdust that only a jigsaw can make, it's right there on the cut line, and sometimes it can be hard to see what you're working with. And so I'm really curious to see how this feature works. I'm going to test this by using the dust collection port as well. This dust collection port just locks in right here behind the tool. It doesn't go off to the right or to the left. I think that's pretty nice. And also it fits even if you have your larger 3-amp battery. It, of course, fits in right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and power this on. I'm going to start with the speed 1, the slowest setting. I think that's 800 blade movements per minute is what it is. I honestly don't know why I would ever cut at that one speed. That seems pretty low. This is 3 and 5. It's a little loud when you're at 5, but also vibration is very, very minimal. That's really, really nice. And once again, very comfortable in the hands. So I've got my blade installed. I have my blade guard installed. Let's go ahead and test this out. The way I normally test jigsaws is I'll take like any kind of lumber, usually a piece of chapel or cherry or maple, and cut out a charcuterie board template. In the shop, I make lots of charcuterie boards. Here's one that is like halfway done, and I will usually use templates from Crafted Elements, and so you always start out by cutting out the general shape. Anyways, I'm probably talking too much about this, but that's how I test out jigsaws, is I'm like, can it cut out a charcuterie board shape? Because you have all these different curves and straight lines, and it's just a good way, in my opinion, to test jigsaws. By the way, if you're interested in seeing me make this charcuterie board, I'll link that down in the description, so check that out. Okay, so just then I had this blowing feature on. You probably saw sawdust kind of blowing out that way. I noticed it a good bit. Now I'm gonna turn this off and see if I notice any difference. Okay, I just had to pause the making of this charcuterie board to say, wow, this feature made a huge difference. At first, I was kind of like, I tested the blowing feature first. And so I was like, okay, it's kind of keeping sawdust out of there. Not a big deal. When I turned this off, which most jigsaws would just have this off, I was blown away by how much sawdust was in the way here. I couldn't even see my cut lines. That is crazy good. I really like that feature. Once again, it's a feature that I've never really seen on jigsaws, but it makes a difference here. I will pretty much always, I think, be leaving this switched on. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up this cut, and I'll give you my final thoughts on this jigsaw. Yeah, let's just finish this up first. Hey, before I give you my final thoughts on this Milwaukee Jigsaw, if you could do me a huge favor and hit the like button, only if this video has been helpful for you. If it hasn't been helpful or whatever, no worries, but if it has, or if you've learned something, hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, final thoughts on this jigsaw. Here we go. Okay, so after using this jigsaw to cut out a little charcuterie board rough blank, let me just give you my honest thoughts on this. First of all, if you have never used a barrel-handled jigsaw, especially this Milwaukee one, I think you will be blown away whenever you, just like me, make the switch from the D-handled jigsaw to the barrel handle jigsaw. Your hand is closer to the cut, not in a dangerous way, just in a way that gives you, in my opinion, more control. I was cutting some pretty intense curves on a really short board, so I didn't have a lot of control. It was a tough cuts that I was making, basically. But this jigsaw gave me lots and lots of control. I really, really liked that. Like I said, this feature that keeps your blade area clear is a game changer. I'm going to be using that a lot. One thing I was not really impressed with was this little blade guard. This installs right here. It probably helps with dust collection. I think the main reason it's included in this kit is so that you don't get your finger in there with in the blade, but you always have this little wire thing here that's going to be a safety feature. This, in my opinion, made it really tough to see because it was getting all this, fine sawdust on it, and it was making it tough to see my cut lines. Also, it's just extremely, extremely cheap. Like, you can see it flexing here. I feel like it just would break very easily. I'm going to keep it, of course, but I was not super impressed with that little feature of this jigsaw. One other thing that happened is this Allen key got loose while I was making the cuts, so all of a sudden my whole foot of the jigsaw was loose. But what I noticed when I went to retighten it is this gives you positive stops for all of your main angles. 0 degrees, 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, which is really nice. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna take out like a 1, 2, 3 block or a square to get this squared up to the blade. Didn't even have to worry about that because it gives you these positive stops right back here. That was something that I really, really appreciated. When it comes to battery life, I mean, I was running this for probably 3 to 4 minutes on a pretty high speed oscillation, and I still have 3 out of 4 little fuel dots on my fuel gauge. I just made the upgrade to get 3 amp M12 batteries, and I am really, really glad that I made that upgrade. In my opinion, sometimes batteries are not like the most fun thing to buy for your shop, because you're like, batteries, it doesn't give you the ability to do anything new. But when you invest in some more high performance batteries, like going to the 3 amp from the 1.5 amp, it's a game changer in my opinion. So I'll leave links to these batteries down in the description if you want to pick up some. If you are going to pick up some batteries and use the link down in the description, it really helps me out. Same price for you, but it really helps me out. So I really, really appreciate that. Overall, I would 100% recommend this jigsaw. If you have a D-handled jigsaw and you're ready to make the leap to the barrel handle, this is a great, great jigsaw, a great, great tool. Once again, this is now my go-to jigsaw. There's even another jigsaw I had in my shop that was a D-handled that I'm going to sell because I know I'm never going to use it again. No point in having it in the shop because I now have this jigsaw. Hey, if you liked this video, check out one of these 2 videos because I review a ton of other Milwaukee tools in these videos, and I think you'll find them really helpful. Can't wait to see you in one of these 2 videos.